Thank you guys so much for joining us here today. You know, over the past month, the House, the Senate, myself, we've been working in good faith towards a budget compromise to achieve the top 10 goals for the state of Oklahoma. You know, 10 days ago, we had a really productive meeting right here in this room with all the leadership of the House, the Senate, and we were literally, I felt like within a couple $1 million of finalizing a very good budget. And unfortunately, this past week proved to be pretty difficult when the Senate leadership decided to announce a different budget publicly that they hadn't shared with myself or the House. And I wish today's press conference had all three parties up here standing together. Instead, House leadership and I decided it would be best to be transparent with the public and actually to roll out and let you know what our budget and priorities are. So as you can see in some of the outlines that we laid out, you know, I think it's very important that we are fiscally responsible, that we protect the taxpayer. And so that's why in our budget we have $200 million in savings. It is unprecedented to be able to save $200 million in a budget. I'm so excited that the House has agreed with me, and we're going to get that done. You know, the other thing is we've also got $200 million to invest in education across the spectrum. That means a very important teacher pay raise, but that also means funding priorities to our research universities and higher ed, and also making sure we take care of our career techs with some important pay raises as well. You know, we think it's important that we also give a pay raise to state employees, and specifically in the Department of Corrections, which are fantastic Oklahomans in the Department of Corrections are underpaid when you think about the regional average. So I'm excited to get them an additional pay raise. We're going to fund both a legislative budget oversight division or office, as well as more money to our state auditors. You know, I've asked our state audit department to increase the number of audits they do with certain different state agencies. And so we're going to give them the resources they need to deliver results for Oklahoma. We think, you know, criminal justice, in the very beginning, one of my main priorities this year was criminal justice reform. And so we're going to make sure that we fund diversion techniques. We give our judges the different programs they need to take nonviolent offenders and get them into some diversion programs. So we're going to fund that. And also, everything that we do is going to come back to job growth and growing the economy and expanding. And so we've got a governor's closing fund. We're going to fund some priorities there. We're going to make sure that we get all of the important commerce programs done. So with these funding priorities, the state's appropriated budget this year will go over $8 billion for the very first time. So last year's appropriation was about $7.6 billion. We're going to go over $8 billion. That's a 5% increase in funding. And we're going to put Oklahoma on a very steady path when you think about savings. So I'm excited to work with the House, the Senate, and get us to over $1 billion in savings. When I came in, we had $422 million. My 4-year goal is to get us to $2 billion in savings, so we never have to cut a core program again. And as we take these next steps to show Oklahomans our spending priorities, my hope is this will draw us all back together. You know, let me be clear, there is still room to negotiate and to get everybody on board. Disagreements with Senate leadership does not reflect in any way the incredible partnership that I've developed with both the House and the Senate. This morning, I was excited that I finished, I've had breakfast now at the governor's mansion with every single House and Senate member, both Republicans and Democrats, and so that's been a real joy for me. So we have an excellent House and Senate, and I appreciate everyone who has stepped up to serve their districts and fight for the needs of their constituents. So folks, I'm prepared to be here until June. I don't think we're going to have to. I really want us to get this thing resolved and get the budget done, but we're prepared to do that. we have the chance to resolve this and really do some amazing things this year for the state of Oklahoma. We're in a great situation to have additional revenue. We're going to prioritize savings, and we're going to get this thing across the finish line. So I can't thank my colleagues in the I shouldn't say colleagues, should I, or should I? My colleagues in the House, yeah. My colleagues in the House for standing up here with me. My colleagues in the Senate for fighting for a great budget. And let me turn it over to the Speaker before we open it up to some questions. So, Mr. Speaker.
Governor, thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here with you today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. You know, when we began the first half of the 57th legislature, we knew we were walking into a much better fiscal picture for the state of Oklahoma, which is very exciting. The challenges that we've had, we also knew that we're coming in. The House of Representatives had 46 brand new members to its body. Governor, I want to commend him and thank him for his hard work. This is he and his staff's first approach at a budget. They've worked very well with the legislature, with the House of Representatives. I appreciate he and his staff in their good faith negotiations, and I know that will continue. We're very close to a budget deal, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here with my caucus today to let the public know kind of where we stand on a budget in terms of the position. We are coming close to that constitutional deadline where we're required to adjourn by the last Friday in May, so it's timely for us to be here to talk about budget negotiations and where we are. So I want to once again reiterate my gratitude for first the House Republican Caucus for their hard work. This has been a process in the House of Representatives where it starts with all members working through their sub-appropriation committees and looking at the issues within the purview of those committee jurisdictions, and then moving that information up to the full standing Appropriations Committee, to Chairman Wallace and his team. They've done a remarkable job in the House this year, and then communicating that to our Senate counterparts and to the governor. And so that's how the process works. I think it's worked very well this year, and we're very, very close. But once again, we have come to the point in session where it's time to put that together. And I believe that the approach and the product that we have to date is very much on balance. I believe that it's very comprehensive, and I think it's very thoughtful in terms of all of the vast array of issues that we face the state of Oklahoma. On balance and thoughtfulness, this negotiations this far, they include both House Republican priorities. Also, many things on the list from House Democrat priorities that have been delivered to me from Leader Emily Virgin, Minority Leader of the House of Representatives. We sat down with the Senate and with the governor, and we've considered their priorities as well. And so, but the most important group that has been recognized and has been part of these negotiations are the citizens of the state of Oklahoma, the people who elect us, who send us here to take care of the business of the state on their behalf. And so I've been very pleased with the process at this time. We have reached an agreement with the governor. The House of Representatives has reached a budget agreement with the governor. As the governor has pointed out, there is room for further negotiation. We seek to solidify that agreement with our Senate counterparts. But this has been a great positive atmosphere to work in this year. I'm confident that we're going to get there. But ladies and gentlemen, it is time. Our Constitution mandates that we finish our business by the last Friday in May, and each of us have a constitutional duty to deliver and deliver that product by that deadline. So once again, thank you for your time today. It's an honor to be here. We're excited about the progress, and we are ready to move the budget across the finish line in the first half of the 57. Governor, thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Yeah, we'll open it up to a few questions if you have any.
What's your disagreement with the Senate?
What's the disagreement with the Senate?
Yeah.
You know, the disagreement is that I think that they walked away from the budget table. We just haven't got agreement on a bunch of these items, I guess. They introduced some things last week, took down some of our priorities and increased others, and so that's why we wanted to roll out ours today.
How long will you wait for them to come back to the table before maybe the House starts doing it on its own?
Before the House starts doing a budget on their own?
Yeah, just to fire some shots.
Well, you know, that would be a last resort. Hopefully, we'll be able to sit down with the leadership of the Senate. I would love to go talk to the Senate caucus and get them back to the negotiation tables. Again, we sat in this very room 10 days ago last Friday, and we're really, really close. So this budget had been put together by my Secretary of Budget, Secretary Mazie, Chairman Wallace, and Chairman Thompson for the last 4 months. And to have the leadership break at the last minute and walk away from the table was disappointing for me. I did not want to negotiate this thing publicly, but it seems like that's where we're at.
Governor, why specifically did they walk away from the table?
Why did they walk away?
Yes, sir.
You know, it was regarding how we're going to fund the education was the major, I guess, kind of dividing point.
Can you be more specific?
It was about the teacher pay raise, whether it needed to go into the classroom or whether we needed to give a teacher, mandate the teacher pay raise. And from the very beginning, I believe that we have to take care of our teachers. I said it on the campaign trail. I wanted to give a $1,200 teacher pay raise to every single teacher. And that's what I was holding firm on. I believe that's the right thing to do. I said on the campaign trail, I wanted to take our teachers to #1 in the region. We have a chance to do that. We have a chance to plant the flag and be #1 in the region and let the world know that Oklahomans value education and that it is a great profession, and that Governor Stitt and the House and the Senate Republicans are going to take care of our teachers. And so that was very, very important to me, and I think that was kind of the splitting point.
Just to follow, if I could, the Senate last Thursday said they were on board with that. Did something change over the weekend?
No, they said they were on board with that, but at that point they rolled out some other things that you know, we weren't on board with, or that we were introduced to for the very first time through a very public setting, and that was the thing that was frustrating, is that I'd said the whole time we're not going to negotiate, through press conferences, and so to roll something out at the last minute that hadn't been shared with the House or the governor's office was what was disappointing for me.
What were those additional items that the Senate rolled out? Can you elaborate?
Not at this point, but it was just a change. It was lowering some of the governor's priorities. It was lowering some of the House's priorities, and some things that we were trying to. Again, we were, in my opinion, very, very close 2 weeks ago, and it feels like we got set back a month or so.
Did the three legs of the stool have a meeting this morning? I know everybody was in caucus on the House side, Senate side. Was there a afternoon, okay, let's sit down and see if we can avoid this press conference with, half the legislature and the governor? Was there a final effort this afternoon?
I met with the pro tem today and let him know what I was going to do. But really, the reason that we're sitting here today is we felt like we needed, the House and the governor's office needed to be transparent with where we're at. We've been working very, very well for the whole session, and last Thursday, the Senate leadership broke from kind of what we were talking about and decided to roll out publicly. So that was kind of the reason that we're here to roll out our priorities.
So, Governor, is this more of a difference of numbers or a difference in philosophy?
A little bit of both. There's some differences in numbers. We got introduced some other numbers that we hadn't talked about the whole time. But also, how we're going to fund education, whether it's into the funding formula or whether it's a teacher pay raise. There's some disagreements on how do you get that money into the classroom, and I believe that we need funding formula reform, That's something that I'm working on for next year. But this was the right thing to do to actually get the teachers the pay raise that they need. We have in our budget money to go into the funding formula, but I also have to take care of a lot of other priorities as I outlined in there. Higher ed, making sure that we have that taken care of, career techs, and a lot of other priorities in that budget.
Governor, the Chicago SF says it would build upon the state employee pay raise given last year. Can you talk about what that means? Will there be money for a pay raise this year, or is it more?
I missed what you said in the first thing.
The sheet says it will build upon the state employee pay raise that was given last year. Can you talk about what's in this budget for state employees, or is it more just identifying for future years?
Yeah, we're working on that. We know last year that the average state employee got about a $1,600 pay raise, and so that's still part of the negotiations between the House, the Senate, and the governor's office. But we think it's important to continue to move the needle there and make sure that we're paying market. But we also want to reward, the really, really good state employees, and there's some reforms that we would like to see with that. But that's still a negotiation on how we're going to do there. One more question.
Mr. Speaker, if I might ask, we've heard the governor's reaction to the Senate's press conference or media availability on Thursday. What was your reaction, and what were the considerations in terms of where you had concern with what the Senate proposal?
Well, the response is just, it's a deviation from what the protocols have been for negotiating the budget so far this session. It's the first time that we've seen the Senate message outside of communication with the joint negotiations. So, of course, we always listen. We certainly understand that the Senate is certainly one of the legs of the stool in budget negotiations. But we want to make it it's created some. It's obviously the last few days there have been a lot of questions as to whether or not where everybody is in the negotiation process. Is the governor endorsing what the Senate's discussed in the media? Where's the House on these issues? And so today's more or less an opportunity for us to talk a little bit more about those details and clear up some of those questions that have everybody's been wondering about.
Last thing, just real quick follow-up. The Senate had some concerns expressed publicly about the ability to get information from agency directors and agency heads. To your knowledge, have the House had any issues like that? Is that figured out?
I can tell you personally, there has not been one agency in the state of Oklahoma that has been unresponsive to a request from the Speaker's office, nor am I aware of any of my chairwomen that have made an inquiry that the agency has not been responsive to. So, of course.
Yes, sir.
I was just wondering about if you were to take out just this portion that addresses education, is the Senate on board with everything else listed here?
You would have to, those are questions probably best answered by the pro tem of the Senate at this time. A question came up about the state employee pay raise. That's always been part of the discussion. That's always been part of the budget. What we can tell you here, what you see before you today, those are the areas that the governor's office and the House are in agreement in and on. We were very close a week and a half ago in those joint negotiations. I don't think that there's a lot that stands between us. There's much more that we're unified on, but the process has run. It is time for us all to come together and make those final compromises and move this product across the finish line and end strong with what's been a very positive first half of the 57th legislature.
Thank you guys so much for having us here, and thank you, House, thank you, Speaker, and we're close.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you.